Huh? John 9 and 2 Corinthians 12. 7 through 12.
Awesome. Alright guys, if you want to turn your Bibles to John 9, we'll get there in a few minutes, but if you'll go ahead and turn there, that would be great. I have to figure this mic out. It is broken. Alright, so if you look up at me, it would be no surprise that I'm rather short. I know, it's crazy to think that a 5'6", who likes to say 5'7" person, I'm like 5'6" and a half, so I feel like it's justifiable to round it up to 5'7". It's fair to say that I'm short. And because I was short, I learned at a very early age what it looked like to be picked on. I remember standing in first grade, waiting to go to recess, and a kid named Braden calling me a small fry. And yeah, it seems so silly, but in first grade, man, that can hurt. This mic will not stay. Okay, but I really remember this time, and I'm going to just preface this with this. I'm not going to make this really dramatic because I don't necessarily need your sympathy for it. But I remember in second grade being out at recess one day and just hanging out, playing soccer or something, and some kids grabbed me and pulled me over and they're like, "You're going to be the goalie." And I hate goalie. I hated it ever since I started playing soccer. And then this kid lines up to kick it, and they don't let go of my arms. And it hit me in the face. My nose just starts bleeding, and I go to the nurse, and they left out how exactly I got it. I got a bloody nose playing soccer. Things like that stick, and things like that made me hate being short. I was never the kid who had that big growth spurt, like, oh, I was really tall in middle school and everybody caught me. No, I grew consistently 2 inches every year until I was like a senior in high school. It's documented up on my wall. There's never that any sort of thing above 2.5 inches, and that was a good year. Most of the time, it was just 2. So I would have entered high school hitting 5 foot, 95 pounds my freshman year. On a middle school retreat, I was running around, and the middle schoolers couldn't tell the difference between me, the sophomore counselor, and them. So when it's a game where the counselor's trying to tag the kids, of course it works to my advantage, because I could just kind of casually walk up like I was one of them. But it also wasn't the best feeling. That same year, I was on a soccer team, and I joined the Andover Central soccer team, and at the very end of the banquet, he pulls us up, and he's talking about each one of us, and he just pulls me up and goes, "Now this kid is short." Thank you. He's like, and when he played, at first he came in, and I thought, oh, he might be a forward, or I don't know what he'd do. Maybe he's quick, maybe he's something. But he's short. I mean, look at him, he's short. And I don't know how many times, but it was at least 7 times. He made everybody in the crowd recognize I was short. Now, he was trying to use it as a compliment and point out that I was short, but I played much taller than I was, and I wasn't afraid to go shoulder to shoulder with kids much bigger than me. But still, I was short. I didn't like it. Never was I a big fan of the fact that I'm below average height. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in this room who has something that they did not like about themselves. Some inadequacy that they claim. Maybe you're short like me. Maybe you're unathletic, or maybe you're just like, well, I'm not unathletic, but I have a sibling who's more athletic. Or I have a sibling who's smarter than me, or I just can't do school. Maybe you're that kid who had glasses from like the age of 3. Or you have this random food intolerance that severely limits what you can eat. Maybe you have struggled with weight because it's just something that you can't seem to get rid of. We all have those things about us that we don't necessarily like, things that we consider inadequacies. So if you're in John 9, just John 9, verse 1, we're going to look at a man in the Bible who had a major inadequacy. So it's John 9, and verse 1 says, as he walked along, he saw a man born blind from birth. So we're just going to stop there. A man born blind from birth. Now to understand this, you can't. Nobody in this room could comprehend what it means to be born blind because you have now seen something. You cannot go back and erase that. Think about it. You've probably read Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Hunger Games or Twilight. Any movie that has come out that's based off of a book, if you go back to the book and you try to think of the characters, who do you picture? You picture the actors from the movie. But if you read the book before the movie, you have the freedom to imagine whoever you want. But once you've seen that person, you cannot go back. I only read the first Hunger Games book. I never got around to the others. If I were to go back now, I have a very different understanding of Katniss. Now I have Jennifer Lawrence running around in my head, fighting this Gale guy who's like this nice masculine man, and Peeta who looks smaller. Like, I will see those characters. He's just, I don't know. I connect with him. But like, that's who we picture in our heads now. Think about this for a second. Explain a color to somebody who's never seen color. Try to describe the color red. And describe it without describing any other visual thing. You can't go, oh, well, it's orange, but darker. Because you just describe something else that they don't know. This man literally has never seen anything ever. Sometimes that puts our inadequacies a little less. But nonetheless, we see this man born blind. Verse 2 says, his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? The common understanding then is if you have this man who's crippled or born blind or has something wrong with him, it was due to sin. So, you have a man born blind. Well, obviously he made a mistake because if he was good, he would be fine. But sinners are the ones who have problems. Never talked to this man, just walked up to him, sinner, right there. Or was it his parents, though, Jesus? Because if he was born blind, wouldn't that mean his parents were the sinners? And this was a punishment for them? That would make more sense. This was how they did things. But then Jesus walks up and he answers, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works may be revealed in him.